Hello, this is Ryan Riccitelli with asnews.net, and today I have one of my very favorite professional kiteboarders, Damian Leroy. He's out of Naples, Florida, and Damian has an extensive snow skiing background. He was a racer, and he's just moved into kiteboarding and been blowing things up since day one. So, best person to probably give you a little feedback on his background is Damian. So, why don't you introduce yourself, Damian?
Well, I'm Damian Leroy. I was born and raised in Vail, Colorado. I moved when I was 10 years old to Alaska and just kind of traveled around just to ski areas. My family, everybody grew up skiing. I started skiing when I was 3. We started racing right after that. And my brother and I and my father, and he was in skiing for his whole lifetime, so it was kind of just how it worked with our family. We competed all over and just excelled, and a few injuries here and there, and it kind of brought me to Florida. And I met a family down there, the Boat family. Eric, Dana, and Corey are the brothers, and they kind of helped introduce me into kiting, and I just took it from there. And, you know, like everybody else out there getting into it, it was just awesome. I mean, you just want to go big and do what you can do, and I took it on and went with it. It was
well, and now you're a Cabrinha rider, and, you know, what's that like, being a professional kiteboarder and riding for a brand like Cabrinha?
I'm super lucky to be a part of them. I mean, I kind of got into the sport and met a person in Texas named Bucky Ashcraft, and he kind of just took me in and was like, you know, this kid might have potential. And he went to Kent Marikovic, who was with Cabrinha at the time, Venture Sports, which is a distributor in the United States, and they kind of took me in and gave me a chance. And Zero Gravity Boards from Texas, they hopped in and you know, sent me to my first tournaments. And from there on out, I just kind of excelled and got, you know, very lucky, and then started putting in hard work and just excelling. And, yeah, I can't, you know, say more about them. I mean, they definitely put me on the map.
Well, and you talk a little bit about Zero Gravity and the crew down here in Texas, and, you know, I know Tony Brady, he's the guy behind Zero Gravity, super down-to-earth guy, and why don't you talk a little bit about his boards and you know, the design there?
Well, yeah, Tony, he's a rock star. He's the most humble, amazing person. I mean, I mean, to this day, I still go back and, you know, you normally when you're traveling around and you stay with people and, you know, you're staying for a tournament or whatever, you always stay with your buddies and party and hang out and the whole deal. Well, I most of the time go down and stay with Tony because he's just so interesting and just, you know, gives you life about everything. And that to me is huge, and he's just been such a positive influence, and his wife Jane and their dog Max, and I don't know, it's awesome. Their boards are unbelievable. They started out just, you know, simple and started cutting boards up, and now they're just full bore and making incredible boards. They have a new board out that's just killing it, and kind of a wave board, and they got all sorts of boards. I mean, they're definitely going to be a future in this sport.
I know I'm riding the 130 right now, and I love it. And, you know, I don't know exactly what you ride, but for the conditions down here, I mean, the thing has so much pop. It's so fast, and it's got like an indestructible bottom on it. So it's just it's really a fun board. And actually, I was probably the biggest cynic when it came to when, you know, Tony was handing me the board. I was like, yeah, well, I'll tell you what I really think of it. Not that I'm some genius, but I have to just say that board is a lot of fun to ride. And I guess, what board are you riding in the lineup?
I'm riding the 138. It's kind of a larger model, but it's kind of more wake style. And the 136 for wave, that board is definitely the bomb. And they have a little 120 that's just, if you ride flat water, dude, it's the best board out there.
Well, and let's switch gears and let's start talking about kites, because I know that you have gone completely bowlistic, as I say. You're on a bow kite now. And tell me a little bit about, like, what that's like.
Well, for me, it was I was super skeptical. I mean, you could talk to Pete. It was all the, you know, testing that we did, and the big, you know, team tests that you do. We were doing it in St. Martin, and the bow kites were out there, the Crossbow at the time, and I was skeptical. I mean, I was just like, you know, let me finish the season on the PKRA riding the sea kites, because I just don't want to make the change yet. It's too different. And, you know, I just kept kind of fighting it because it's so different. You know, it's hard to take something that, you know, you don't really want to grab onto because everybody's kind of doing the sea thing. And so just, you know, in the past couple months, I fully completely changed the bow kites. I mean, I think it's unbelievable. You can do all the tricks, which at the time I was just fighting it, saying, no, you can't, and I just didn't give it a good enough shot, and there's no question it's a little more challenging for some wake-style stuff, but it can all be done. It's a different pull, but for wave riding, the kite it's not even funny. It dominates for big air. It's incredible, and the future of it is just going to be incredible. That's why I want to be a part of it, because I think the future is going to be bow kites, or a type of bow kite, or flat kites, I guess, and I just think it's definitely going to be the future. I mean, right now, no sea kites. I mean, for me to say that's hard because I kind of contradict myself, because all I was saying before was I'll never get on a bow kite, but I guess you eat your words sometimes, and I'm fully on the bow kites, and I'm flying the Contra, or the Contra obviously just came out right now, and that that kite we were testing, and it's an incredible kite. It's amazing for light winds, and it's a complete upgrade from the Switchblade and Crossbow. Right now I'm flying the Crossbows, and the Switchblade's kind of more of like a wake-style power kite, and I kind of do both with the Crossbow. I can pull all the wake-style stuff, but yet the hang time and the full range and depower is the best, so kind of where I'm going.
Well, and you brought up the Contra, and I know it's probably a household name for you personally because you're on the team, but for most of us in the real world of kiteboarding, we've all been introduced to this kite in the last few weeks. I know that Cabrinha just sent out some press releases on that, and why don't you talk a little bit about that kite?
Well, there's no question the Contra is a complete upgrade. I mean, the bar pressure's less, and it's kind of just a super step up from the Switchblade and Crossbow. I mean, there's no question. We were testing it in the Keys, and Cameron Dietrich and Paul Mento was down there, and the three of us were just going to town on it, trying everything and switching everything, and there's no question that kite flies in light winds like you can't believe. I mean, we always say a kite flies in light winds, but I mean, you put it to the test, you put a little bigger board on, be surprised. I mean, those guys actually were riding the 14 Contra in completely light winds, and I was riding a 12 Contra in the same winds and making it work, and it was incredible. So I think it's the future, there's no question.
Now, when you say that it's a light wind kite, like what are some of the different characteristics between like the Crossbow versus the Switchblade versus the Contra? I mean, what can you see just aesthetically on the kite that might look different?
Well, the bridle's a little bit different. The scoop on the kite, kind of the way it sits back into the wind is a little different. But it's what you really would notice is you put it up into the sky, and it's just it's a different kind of pull, I guess. It's like kind of like a Switchblade pull, kind of sits a little further back, but the way it generates power, and you just plane so easy that it's not even funny. I mean, the kite itself is a light wind kite that is just domination. I mean, I can't describe it. You just got to try it. I swear, it's pretty amazing.
Well, and let's switch gears a little bit onto the Switchblade versus the Crossbow, because a lot of people, they just classify a bow kite, a flat kite, SLE as all the same. And you know, I've spent a lot of time in the last couple months flying the different, you know, flat kites, SLEs, bow kites out there, and I've talked to a lot of the designers such as Ken Winter, who definitely really narrowly designs what a bow kite is. So, you know, from your perspective, what do you see as the differentiation between like the Crossbow versus the Switchblade?
Well, to me, there's no question. I mean, there's a pretty big difference. I think that the range on the Crossbow is a lot bigger, and the range, I mean, as in the depower and power. I feel like you can generate incredible amount of power and yet depower beyond any of the kites with the Crossbow. And it's a little bit flatter of a kite, and every once in a while has a tendency to invert, and that's kind of what they overcame with the Switchblade. It was more based on sitting back in the window, a little more wake style, beneficial, and it itself wasn't as high aspect, so it was easier to kind of keep it from inverting, and it's just kind of like a complete upgrade, less bar pressure than the Crossbow. The Crossbow definitely was, since it was kind of the first one that came out, it kind of tends to have a lot of bar pressure, but that's something that you just get used to. And, you know, the future of all the kites, well, I can tell you the Contra has less bar pressure than that. So, I mean, it's kind of the future itself is all going to be less bar pressure and everything just getting better. So, I mean, for me, the Crossbow is kind of an ideal kite for the waves and stuff because of the range. I like the range because you can be completely lit and go into a wave and sheet out and surf it like normal waves. So all the kites, I mean, for me, they're all bow kites, and they all kind of have their different ways of taking on different people. And I really think that the future, you can't go wrong with buying a bow kite or a flat kite. Learning on a bow kite is just endless. If any kiteboarder was out there to get into this sport, I recommend a bow kite. You will get in so fast and learn so easy. It's kind of a joke.
Well, and you talked about bar pressure, and I know that that's like a huge debate among a lot of people, is the bar pressure on the different flat kites. And why don't you give us your perspective on the difference between the bar pressure on, per se, a sea kite versus a bow kite?
Well, there's no question. The flat kites or the bow kites, the bar pressure is a lot more. You kind of get used to it, and when you're underpowered or the winds are lighter, there's no question that the bow kites or flat kites, really you feel the bar pressure because you're pulling the bar in so close to you because you're trying to get as much power out of it, and you really feel that it needs, you need less bar pressure. It just has so much. But once you get pretty powered on the kites, they actually kind of not necessarily have all the bar pressure because of the fact that it kind of sets an equal range in there, and it's kind of comfortable. But compared to a sea kite, it's a pretty big difference, and it's, there's no range on a sea kite, compared to the bow kite. So it's kind of like, your range of wind, you can fly a bow kite in such a huge range. Compared to a sea kite, you'd have to switch up sizes or whatever to make it work. So that's kind of the big thing for me is, the range. I mean, you can take one kite out of the new flat kites and ride it forever. I mean, and fly it in many winds. So it's definitely amazing.
Well, and you talked a little bit about unhooking with a bow kite, and you're the guy who can do pretty much anything on a sea kite. I've watched you and shot many photos of you, sequences, doing every variation of a handle pass, kite loop, this and that. And what's the difference between the two kites when trying to execute moves like that?
Well, there's no question. There's a quite a difference between the bow kite and the sea kite, obviously, but you kind of just get the feel for one, and for me, it's kind of the kite loops with the bow kites. You can't necessarily, the big thing is fishing, which is, I say we go fishing. You grab the bar on one side, and the kite loops, and with a sea kite, it always looped really well when you grabbed one side of the bar. Now, with the bow kites, not necessarily can you do that because the kites kind of spin on itself. And with the Switchblade and Contra, it kind of gets better. The way they're looping is not necessarily just spinning on axis. They're making more of a sea kite loop. So, but with the Contra, or with the Crossbow, you just kind of, instead of going fishing, we would just grab the bar and just turn it, but not necessarily as much. And then it would make your sea kite loop. So it was pretty exciting, and you just had to play with it and create your new way of, making your tricks work for you. So it was like a new challenge, instead of going out there and just doing the same thing from a sea kite to a bow kite, you had to kind of create your own way to make it work. So it was exciting.
Well, and, you've really done a lot of traveling with the PKRA and going around and riding competitions, and this year you've kind of taken a different direction, and, give us some perspective on what it was like, riding on the tour with Ruben Lenton, Aaron Hadlow, and all those guys.
It's an unbelievable experience. I mean, to be able to, go out and ride with the best of them and compete with them, it was incredible. It was a great experience. I mean, I thank Cabrinha and Zero Gravity and Corner 5 and Black Dog, all my sponsors that have, given me the opportunity. But it's amazing. I mean, the guys are just true athletes. I mean, you see a PKRA, it's definitely something to see just because it's so incredibly technical, and the tricks people are doing and the enthusiasm and the amount of stuff that is thrown down that you just can't imagine. But, it's also the lifestyle, just seeing the world and experiencing all the different places and the friendships and the traveling and the getting lost in airports and not having a hotel and walking to your, event site. And it's fun. I mean, hitchhiking around, it's quite an experience, but it's amazing. The guys are incredible. I mean, Aaron's a solid person. Ruben's just classic. He's out of all the people, he's just one to watch because he's exciting, whether he's competing or not. And Leishai Miller is who I traveled with a lot, and we just had a great time. We stayed in Greece with Aaron, and we kind of shot a little slider thing there. And I don't know, throughout the year, you travel with different people. I mean, Mike Bloomvall, he's from Sweden. He's a rock star. I mean, all the guys on the tour, it's, you really can't run into anybody wrong, and they're all good people. And I feel like an old one on the tour. I'm kind of like, feel like I'm broken and all my body doesn't work. And these guys are 16 years old throwing everything. So for me, I go home and ice it, and they go home and party and show up in the morning and dominate again.
Well, and we've got the Velocity Games coming up down here in Corpus Christi, and you're going to be coming down for that. What do you think about that?
I know, I'm excited. Every time Texas holds a tournament, it's always good no matter what, even if it's the Red Bull qualifier or the Velocity Games. It's always good. I mean, Texas has a certain vibe to it, and I went down there when I was younger in kiting, and I trained there with Bucky Ashcraft and the gang and Tony, and it was incredible. I mean, the place itself blows a lot. It always has windy. It always has wind, and it's a great place. It's good people, good surroundings, and the tournaments are great. I mean, Tony Brady and Neil Hutchinson and yourself, I mean, you guys are going to put on a good thing, and every year it's always different, but that's what makes it exciting.
Well, this year we got a border cross event, one of the X-rated kiteboarding border crosses. Those are pretty standard issue there in Florida. And then we also have a kite loop competition, and it's kind of like a newer format, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing you throwing down in the kite loop competition.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. It's a cool new setup. So like I said, it's interesting because you go all around the world, and there's always different tournaments and different ways of going about it. So it's exciting, because it's a new event, new way of going about it. So you just go there and enjoy it, and just seeing the camaraderie and just enjoy.
Well, the local scene here has been building lately, and it seems like every other day they take me down this new dirt road that leads to this magic secret spot. And I mean, there's probably like 4 different areas with rails built, and there's no other spot I know in the U.S. or there you can just go and build these rails and leave them there and not have anybody bother you. That's something that's amazing about Texas. I mean, that in itself is amazing, the rails that you can do there. Also the fact that they have a coastline that I swear we did so many downwinders where one person drove in a truck and they just drove down the beach, for a good 30 minutes while the other 2 guys rode. And then they switch kites, and the dude hops in the truck and starts driving. Do downwinders down the coast forever. And, I mean, talking about just fun, it was just incredible. The place is endless, what you can do there. And Bucky Ashcraft sent me the weather forecast for the next week, and it's reading 15 to 20 every day. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I went there for a month, and we kited every single day, and the only days we couldn't kite, we were so tired we had to take a break. Well, cool, Damian. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know I had to hit you up early this morning to get your interview in, and I really appreciate the perspective that you gave us on the new Cabrinha kites. And, I want to give you a chance to throw a shout-out to your crew. So I just, got to give thanks, first of all, to you. I mean, Ryan, it's awesome. It's always good talking with you. You were kind of one that started the whole scene, and you were one of the first that I kind of ran into in kiteboarding. So pretty cool that we're doing this again, this many years down the road. And give it up to Todd Grayo and Kent Marikovic at Adventure Sports. They're with Cabrinha Distributor, and they got me into this, and they've just brought me so far. Tony Brady and Zero Gravity Boards, gotta give it to him. He's just an amazing person. If anybody out there is looking for boards, you gotta go there. Corner 5 in Black Dog clothing company. They're just amazing people. Kept me going, and of course my mom and dad, and all those out there that are just behind me. Thanks. Well, right on, Damian. We look forward to seeing you down here in Corpus Christi, man. All right, buddy. Thank you very much. All right, you have a great day. Yeah, thanks. Hello, this is Ryan Riccitelli with ASNews.net, and today I have Reo Stevens on the line. He is one of the original kiteboarding groms, who's pretty much grown up in the scene, and he's one of the top wave riders on Oahu now, and, I think that he's probably pushing, 19 now? 20, actually. 20 years old, and probably the best person to introduce himself is Reo. So, Reo, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Hey, all, how's it going? My name's Reo Stevens. I was born and raised on the North Shore of Oahu, pretty much the surfing capital of the world. And just growing up surfing and then windsurfing, and about 5-6 years ago got into the sport of kite surfing when I was swimming for my windsurfing rig, and had, I believe it was John Amundsen jump over my head laughing at me swimming for my stuff. So kind of had to get into it from there. So it was fun, and kind of evolved from that to where I am now.
Well, and like I mentioned, you were one of the early groms of the sport. You and probably Niccolo Porcello were probably the most notable. And you guys, I mean, what was it like being, 14, 15 years old and, being a sponsored kiteboarder?
It was fun, I can tell you that much. It was definitely cool being in the sport at that time. Basically, we were getting into it just at the same time as the rest of the pros, almost what you want to call the old-timer pros, like Martin and Tobias and Wilson. We're all getting into it at the same time, and it was fun. It was just hanging with the guys, and everybody's watching each other and pushing each other, and from time to time, creating new trailways through the bushes from having our kites drag us through there. It was a good time to start kiteboarding, and man, it was a blast.
I've watched you grow up in the sport of kiteboarding, and you've always been a really, what I consider a good person, and not really been like the wild child. And now you're 20 years old, you're on the North Shore, and what are you doing these days?
Well, these days I'm actually stoked to announce I just finished a couple hours ago my last test of the semester for school. I've been attending Leeward Community College for the last year and a half with no particular degree in mind. But between school and work, I'm actually working for High Surf Accessories, which builds and manufactures pro surfing accessories, as well as maintaining my kite surfing career with Naish as well. And just in the spare time I have, just try and have fun with friends.
Well, and who's your crew that you ride with over there?
Well, the crew that I ride with over here, for the most part, would be Felix Quebec and Top Hat, Will James, and occasionally when they make their guest cameos down at the park, it'd be Tobias and Martine as well.
Well, and I remember back, I think it was like the 2001 Gorge Games, and I think you were like 15 years old, and you were at the event, and I think you were competing in the event, and Jeff Tobias and that whole crew, I mean, they were a pretty hardcore crew. And what was it like being amongst the early slingshot team during its heyday?
Oh, that was a great trip. That was way back when. I guess Tobias and I had just got picked up by Slingshot, and the first trip, pretty much the first time that I can remember of leaving the Hawaiian Islands, and that was definitely an eye-opening experience. That was a fun trip with a lot of memorable occasions with being duct taped and head shaven, and it was an eye-opening experience to the world of older guys and what they could possibly do as grom torture. It was all in good fun, of course, and I hit back occasionally, but I definitely regretted the hit back because it just came back twice as hard. And yeah, that was a fun trip. I remember the Gorge Games competing. I don't believe I did very, very well, but I remember Tobias did really good. That was a year he invented the heart attack, and man, that was a big trick that year, and everybody was blown out by it.
Well, and with that said, you've watched all this equipment evolve, and now you're on the Naish stuff. And why don't you give us your perspective on the current state of gear?
Yeah, so the gear nowadays has advanced so much now from just to where it was in the last year or two with the release of the Shockwave, and man, I'm going to have to say that is a great kite if you want a wave ride, because a lot of the places that have really good waves is gusty offshore conditions, and the gustier the wind is, the more messed up and evil it is, the better those kites excel. The range and the depower of them are great to where they depower, and you can ride and feel the waves more with the surfboards, which nowadays a lot of the pros are starting to ride bigger boards in the range of 5.9s to 6.2s and whatnot. Basically following the routes of surfing and riding a surfboard and surf. It's a great time to experience this or really push this part of the sport. It's just so much fun, and it's no longer at that point to where a kite surfer surfer can be on a wave and just getting yanked down the line. It's at that point to where you can slow down, ride the wave like a surfer, and actually do, really, really impressive maneuvers that make surfers on the beach go, wow, that is insane. I want to do that. It's the most hardest person to impress as a surfer. They're one of the hardest critiques ever. Any surfer anywhere has, grown up or knows of Kelly Slater or Aki, and that is the standards by which they judge anybody riding a wave. And it's getting to that point to where now we're able to, I don't want to say we're at that level at any means, but we're getting closer. And it's really gaining interest in surfing. And as for me, from growing up surfing, it's where I want to be. I love the waves, and I love flat water freestyle as well, but my passion is the surf, and the performance is getting to where I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
What's your perspective on the flat kite versus the sea kite?
Sea kites are great, and they'll, in my opinion, they'll always have a place somewhere, most likely in freestyle, mainly just because of the smooth turning, and most of the flat water places have steadier winds, and the range of a kite isn't necessary. But where the shockwaves are basically made for wave riding, because the big issue with wave riding is once you're on the wave, you don't need the kite, and the newer SLE kites, basically you can turn them off and just ride the wave with a board, with the bigger boards you're riding now, and it just provides a smoother turn. And I'm not saying sea kites don't have their place in the surf, especially nowadays. The range of them are getting a lot better as well. It's just personally, I find that the newer kites really provide a advantage above the rest, and it's really, really fun using them.
Well, and let's switch gears and talk a little bit about boards, because I know that you've ridden a lot of boards over the years. You've gone from probably surfboards back to like a twin tip style board, back to a surfboard, and I think you probably ride all of them. But what's your perspective on boards these days?
Boards have just done a complete 360. I believe my first kiteboard was this piece of junk board I probably found in a trash can, and I put switch straps on, and from there I went to wakeboards and bindings, the twin tips, and now we're pulling back out to thruster surfboards again. We just made the whole 360 degrees. It's funny. I remember a couple of weeks ago I just brought out this brand new thruster board of mine, and someone at the park was all, "Man, what is that? Is that is that your old school board, or and the other way around?" I brought out this old board I had from 2 years ago, and somebody thought it was the newest, latest thing. So it's really funny how just everything works in cycles, and really it doesn't surprise me at all. There's been 100 years of surfboard evolution, and it points to the best thing being the 6.0 thruster surfboard, and there's no arguing with that. Twin tips are fun, but they have their place in in freestyle. Wave riding is wave riding. The best thing to ride a wave is a surfboard.
Well, and you're around a lot of really incredible surfers. The North Shore is obviously the melting pot for the who's who of surfing, and then add kiteboarding to the mix. You've also got some of the top wave riders in the world over there. You got John Amundsen, Will James, Felix Pivic, Top Hat. I know I'm missing a slew of them, and Dan Moore.
Somebody you're probably missing.
Skip Wonderluck.
Skip Wonderluck, exactly. That guy is the most underrated wave rider there is. Man, it's amazing. That guy can find a barrel anywhere, anytime. I saw him about a week ago get a 4-second barrel on a chest-high wave. He just crouched in there and disappeared. And it's just, same day as I've been out, I've never even come close to even thinking about crouching for a barrel, and I see that guy just deep in the pit. And it's true surfing barrels, too, with a lip in front of his face. I mean, the guy's got a gift. I've seen him surf, and both him and his brother have this, weird natural talent to where they can just generate barrels around them. I mean, and you know, barrels besides the point. The guy can go straight up and smack the lip. Very, very good.
What's it like, obviously, having all that around you? I mean, it must be it must motivate you in a sense and raise your level.
Totally, it does. It does. I mean, the only way. I mean, I do this for fun, but I at the same time I always want to be better, and you see your friend go do something, you're all, man, I want to do that. Man, I want to do that better, and you do it, and then that pushes the other guy to do it even better. You know, go deeper, go further up with more power to catch a higher aerial, and the competition between friends it's a very powerful training tool, and it's a whole lot of fun as well as you know, really helps you advance your skills in the waves or with anything in freestyle as a matter of fact as well.
Well, and what board are you riding? Like I'd say if you were to go out today, what would you be riding? What would your quiver be?
Well, if I went out today, it would probably most likely be the Shockwave 9, and either the production 5.5 Naish, or I've been working a lot with a new 07 wave board. So today would probably be the latest prototype board, which I believe is going to be 5.9 or 5.10. It's not decided yet, but it'll probably be around that size, and that's probably what the boards I'll be riding the next couple of months is. We've been working really hard on creating a really well-rounded wave board at the moment.
And, you know, what's it like? Obviously, you're a Naish rider. You have Robbie Naish. Do you get to ride with him?
Well, Robbie actually lives on Maui now. He just built himself this big house, and I don't really ever get to see him. And, you know, even when he lived here, I never got to see him. He's always traveling. I mean, that guy works really hard at what he does, and you know, he does a really good job at what he does, and I wish I could see him more. He's a great guy, and he's very fun to go out in the water with, always smiling, and he's just a blast to be around.
Well, and you know, you've taken a different path as a professional kiteboarder. You've gone to college and, you know, furthered your education in that way, and you've also watched a lot of the different tours unfold and the evolution of our sport. And what do you think about the young up-and-coming guys that are riding the PKRA and riding that style?
It's awesome. The things I see those guys doing are just mind-boggling, man. I mean, it's a miracle they don't get hurt more often. You know, the things they're doing. I mean, the last time I was over on Maui for the Red Bull, I saw Ruben just get the biggest jump I've ever. You know, if I was that high, I'd be scared just to land. I've seen him unhook and throw a kite loop where he's over his kite to handle pass, and landed it smooth and fast. And it was just like, how do these guys do that? It's just so impressive. And you know, those guys are pushing the sport, and I only hope they'll last for more than a few years. You know, a human body can only take so much, and those guys are definitely pushing it. Well, and what's on your agenda for, you know, the future? My agenda would just be just traveling when I can. Trying to find new places to go. The places that have been found like in Indo are starting to become very, very crowded, and you know, the world is a big place, and there has to be a lot of good surf out there, and it just needs to take the time. You use the internet to do some research to find where to possibly go, and now that I have the next few months, I'm going to start trying to find a few trips to go on and see if we can find anywhere else new. You know, it's wave kiting is a really difficult thing to find because, you know, it has so many different variables in finding a good spot. You know, surfing, all you need to do is find a good wave with no wind. Kiting, you need to find a good wave with good steady wind at a good angle, and you know, it's just those variables are very difficult to find, and you know, we've been lucky to, you know, or I've been lucky enough to have a really good wave spot 15 minutes from my
and you're one of the guys who your job is to obviously test gear and evolve your riding throughout the year, and so and you've had to do that for years and up your game, and you're probably the best person to ask, what is what's a tip or some perspective you can give to our listeners who are trying to raise their level? I mean, what's your mantra that gets you out on the water, stepping it up?
Well, thinking about how to do things before you actually try to do it. Don't go out and just huck things. You want to think about it. You want to be careful, because nothing's going to limit you more than going out and getting hurt. I've been hurt a fair bit of times, and nothing slows down your progression more than getting hurt. And you want to be careful about that. Do your time. Take the do the research. Ask friends. Watch videos, and making good, solid judgments on how to execute a trick before you actually go out and try and do it. Because nothing's more torturous than being laid up in the cast, laying on the couch watching reruns of SNL while the wind and there's really good conditions right outside your door.
Well, Reo, we got to wrap things up, and I just want to give you a chance to throw a shout-out to your sponsors and your friends.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to thank Naish and OP Clothing for all their support, and I'm not going to mention names because I'll probably forget somebody. So I just like to thank everybody out there for anything they've ever done or will possibly do for me. And thanks for your time, Ryan, for doing this, and hopefully we get to do it again.
Well, I appreciate your time. I know that you stepped out of your work to talk with us. So, another thing I want to ask is, where can our listeners find more information and some stuff about you? Okay, yeah. Actually, right now I'm actually putting together a video for Naish.tv, and hopefully in a few weeks, listeners will be able to check the website out and see some of the latest shots of me riding at a few of my local spots. Awesome, Reo. Well, hey, you keep being who you are, because you're an inspiration to a lot of people, and everybody always speaks very highly of you. So keep up the good work, and we'll be talking to you soon. Excellent. Thank you, Ryan, and you do the same as well. You've been doing a good job with everything, and love to see you keep going. All right. Well, tell all the boys over there I said hello.